Hey guys, let's talk about last night's episode of Arrow, and it was awesome. It is official. I am completely geeked out over this show. I am loving every single second of it. And this last episode before the break was outstanding. That's all I can say. It was really, really good. And we had so many reveals. We found out so much information. I don't even know where to start. Where can I start? Do I start on the island? Do we talk about how Dr. Ivo basically killed Shadow right in front of Oliver because he made him choose between Sarah and Shadow, and it was heartbreaking to watch, and he shot Shadow right in the head. Like, what? When we left last episode, Slade had taken the serum and he looked like he had died. The blood was dripping from his eyes and he was gone. And of course, we find out in this episode that he did not die. And he comes back and he ultimately says whoever did this to Shadow will pay. And, you know, Oliver and Sarah are sitting there with their eyes wide open. First of all, they can't even believe that Slade is still alive, and two, what they just witnessed, Dr. Ivo killing them or killing Shadow, and it was just horrific. It was horrible to see. So all the stuff that was going on in real time was the after effect of Oliver being shot by some tranquilizer gun in last week's episode, and of course Barry Allen saved his life at the top of this episode. He pretty much had to like inject him with rat poisoning to save his life, to thin out his blood and be able to save his life. And I thought that the first scene when Oliver wakes up and he literally grabs Barry by the throat was a really great scene, because he turns to Felicity and says, "Why did you tell him? I am the one who makes that choice. I'm the one who gets to make the decision as to who finds out my secret." And she's like, "Well, you didn't have a vote because you were on death's door." And, you know, she's like trying to say to him, "What's the difference between you telling me when your mom was shot or when your mother shot you? And what's the difference between you telling Dylan?" He's like, "It's my secret to tell. And I basically knew everything about you guys before I told you. And I looked into you as much as I could." He doesn't know anything about Barry, so he doesn't feel like he can trust him. And I thought it was a really good scene between the two of them, because, you know, she's trying to say, "Listen, we know you just as well as you know yourself. Like, we can trust these people, and you should trust that we would never put you in harm's way." And he was just like, "Listen, I don't want all these people knowing about me unless I've given the okay." So I thought it was a really good scene between the two of them. And of course, Barry's watching every second of it, because in last week's episode, Felicity was real quick to say that she doesn't like Oliver that way. And in this episode, there were a lot of moments where Barry was like, "Listen, I asked you last week if you had a thing for Oliver, and clearly you do." And she was like, "No, I swear I don't." And he's like, "Yeah, whatever." And again, the addition of Barry is great. He is a wonderful addition. You know, in the beginning, like of this episode, he's kind of nervous. He's kind of like talking really fast, and, you know, he's trying to impress Oliver, but Oliver's like not having any of it. And I think Felicity says one of the best lines, which is like, you know, like, "Yeah, I know meeting your hero sucks," because a lot of times when you've built somebody up in your mind and they don't live up to that, what you've built up about them, it kind of sucks, right? So, you know, the fact that Oliver was being really rude and kind of a douche in the opening scene, and Barry called him out on it, was sort of like, yeah, your hero doesn't quite live up to who you thought he was going to be, doesn't it? So I thought that was a really great scene too. And it provided a little bit of comic relief with a really heavy episode. So once, you know, Oliver sort of got his footing back, you know, he was, you know, back to business. He was still not quite 100%. So he had to take Diggle on this one case that he was trying to find the guy who pretty much took him out last episode. And they find him, they track him down, and all of a sudden, you know, he's attacking Diggle, and Diggle is getting a sense of how powerful this person is. And, you know, Oliver already knows that he's probably this superhuman. He's been given this serum, and, you know, we all thought it was destroyed on the island, but obviously it wasn't. So now Sebastian is putting his plan into place to try to create all these superhumans, and, you know, his plan is going forwards. And of course, Oliver's trying to do whatever he can to stop this from happening. And there's some really awesome fight scenes. And that's the thing I want to say, guys. Arrow really does the fight scenes well. Like, everybody seems to be really trained as a fighter or in mixed martial arts and all that kind of stuff. And it looks really impressive when you're watching it all play out on screen. And that is one thing I will say that Arrow has done very well from first season to now. Every single fight scene, whether it's with Sarah, Oliver, you know, anyone on the island, it's just been really impressive to watch. So kudos to you guys. So, of course, we had Roy and Thea and Sin off trying to figure out, you know, what happened to her friend Max, because obviously, you know, there's no way that he would have donated blood if he was a junkie. And so that's how they get, what's her name, involved. The other one, Quentin's daughter. And so she pretty much comes and tells them, like, you know, obviously something is kind of going on here, but she can't quite put her finger on it. Everyone that gives blood is asked to do a psych eval, and, you know, so there's like something deeper going on, and she knows that it's Sebastian Blood's blood clinic that a lot of these people went to. So she's kind of getting some, you know, eerie feeling, I think, a little bit about Sebastian, even though he gave her like these gorgeous flowers at the beginning of the episode, and then he asked her if she would go shopping with him. So, you know, clearly he's trying to butter up to her. And she is, like I keep saying, she's like floundering all over the place. And she doesn't really have a home to go to because, you know, her and Oliver are done. Tommy's gone. Her dad is, you know, mourning Sarah. Well, not really, but knows the truth about Sarah, and he hasn't told her yet. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on that she's just not privy to at this point. And so she was a little bit more involved in this episode. And one of the side effects that Oliver had from taking the rat poisoning was he was hallucinating. So he was seeing images of Shadow, he was seeing images of Slade, and then he even saw some Tommy come back. So, you know, he was having all of this like craziness happen to him. And when Shadow had said to him, like, was reaching to him and was like, don't come to me. And I was like, oh no, does that mean she died? And then all of a sudden we saw the flashback, and yes, she was killed on the island, which makes me really sad because I really liked her character. I really enjoyed her. And, you know, she even said, stop wearing my dad's hood. And he's like, I'm doing this to honor you. I'm doing this. And so it was kind of like, you know, Oliver still feels her in the present day. And obviously he really cared about her when she was on the island with him. And it sucks that she died. I mean, did she really? I don't know. This show likes to do a lot of misdirects. So I'm hoping that she's not really dead, but it looks as though she is because, I mean, the bullet did go to the head. And so, of course, when he had visions of Slade, they really were fighting like in his little lair there. And it was kind of cool and impressive. And, you know, he was pretty much saying, listen, the island didn't help you. It just revealed who you really are and that you're like not a nice person and that you'll turn on people. And I was like, oh, man, somebody is pissed with Ollie. So that didn't sit too well with me because I really like Slade and I really like their, you know, their relationship with each other. And to see that they now could potentially be enemies, you know, breaks my heart a little bit. But of course, the show is just so good at doing misdirects, and it's also really good at just showing, you know, all these power players come back. It's really impressive to see. So Roy, of course, ends up in this warehouse where this guy is who's the superhuman, and they inject him with the serum, and so his eyes start bleeding and everything. And of course, Oliver comes to save the day, thank goodness, but it's almost a little too late because he does take the serum and he dies, or at least we think he does, and then Oliver brings him back to life. But now it's sort of like we have to keep our eye on him because it looks like his wound has healed. That's right, he got shot in the femur with the arrow, and now it looks like he's healed. So clearly this serum has taken a hold of him. And at this point, it doesn't look like he's you know, going rogue, but who knows? So that's not going to be good, but it is going to be good, if you know what I mean. So that happened, and then of course we see Sebastian Blood go to what looks like some big kingpin's head office, and he's talking to him, and as soon as you hear the voice, you know it's Slade. And so it looks like Slade is here in present day. He's got a patch on his eye, and it sounds like he is coming for Oliver Queen. He pretty much wants to destroy everything that Oliver cares about, his family, his friends. He wants to turn everybody against him. He's going to do whatever he can, and then he's going to put an arrow through his eye. Man, really? Oh, Slade, that hurts my heart a little bit. But looks like it's going to be an epic battle to the death. And I like that Sebastian has to answer to him. And he was pretty much like, listen, I told you not to go after Oliver, and you did. And look where we are now. And he said, pretty much saying, I can get anybody to wear that mask, so don't play with me. And I was like, ooh, Sebastian has to answer to somebody, and that somebody is Slade. Crazy. So at the end now, we see Barry ends up going back home to where Silver City or something like that. And I can't remember, but he ends up going back home to like his loft where he's got all these chemicals and he's got his computer, and he went there to watch this thing play out on TV. And then all of a sudden we hear that something's happening and all the power goes out, and he goes to like pull on this chain, and then all of a sudden before that happens, like this big like explosion looks like happens, and then all of a sudden this thing like goes through the whole town. And then next thing you know, he's like pulling on this chain, and he looks up, and then the ceiling crashes, and he falls back, and he falls into all these chemicals. And then all of a sudden his face looks like it's tingling. And I'm like, oh, looks like somebody just became the Flash. So guys, it was a good episode. We got some really great reveals. I'm loving every minute of this season right now. It's just really good, and it's impressing me. Like I said, I'm not a big comic book fan, but the show is getting it right. Everything that they're doing, I'm enjoying. I mean, really, they haven't done any missteps really this season. They've gotten rid of pairings that they should have gotten rid of. They're introducing more and more characters, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. All right, guys, that has been my review of Arrow. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and please leave a comment down below, subscribe, like, let me know what you thought, guys. Really, I really want to know. That's it for me. I'll see you guys when the show returns. Bye.